Hi, my name's Jim, and I live here in Minnesota's 1st District. It includes cities like Mankato, Rochester, New Ulm, Winona. It's a kind of small town rural district. It's a place where people know their neighbors and they can care about one another. It's a place where we have compassion for those around us. And that's why I want to talk to you today, because I want us to keep in mind what happened back last fall in Winona when Jim Hagedorn met with his constituents. In that town hall, pressed on the question of gun control and the relationship between guns and suicide, Jim Hagedorn said quite clearly into everyone that the reason he thought suicide was a big deal was because people who commit suicide go to hell. It's a sentiment that doesn't embody what we Minnesotans believe. It doesn't represent the kind of compassion that we have for one another, the way that we care about our neighbors. It's a medieval attitude that still thinks people who committed suicide shouldn't be buried in cemeteries or in churches or have prayers said over them. That's just an outrageous point of view that isn't inconsistent at all with Minnesota and Minnesota values. So first I want you to listen to what he had to say in his own words and judge for yourself. But then I want you to look at what he does in response to it when he's asked to clarify his remarks, because I think that's going to really reveal who he is and what he cares about.
Or who themselves, the biggest victim of gun violence for people with mental health issues, are people who are taking their own life. They may believe their gun is safety, but they're taking their own life.
I don't believe in suicide. I think it's terrible.
Isn't a question of believing in suicide. They're mentally unhealthy.
It's a bad thing. We don't want anybody. We don't
What?
want anybody to commit suicide. We don't want anybody. I'm sorry. No, I don't feel hopeless.
As you can hear for yourself, he very clearly says that he doesn't believe in suicide, which is such a strange thing to say. But then when it comes down to it, what he means by that is he doesn't believe it's morally acceptable, that it's a thing that is wrong for people to do, that it is something that they will be held accountable for before God, as he understands that concept. And these concepts, this really truly medieval idea that people who commit suicide are outside the love of God and the compassion of the church, is something that really, really set off southern Minnesota. All across his district, Jim Hagedorn's comments received attention. They were brought up in letters to the editor. So when he went to hold his Dodge County town hall only a few weeks later, keep in mind, he knew these questions would be coming. And what you see here represents strategy on part of Team Hagedorn.
Let's get to the questions. I'll be happy to get at that, and we'll talk about some of these key issues as we go. Thank you. Tough handwriting today. Yeah.
What happened to the first one?
What's that?
There was another one that he drew first. Why didn't you take that one first?
That was one that was personal in nature, and we're not going to answer that one.
Oh, maybe by the money.
Okay, Jody Young from Dodge Center. Jody's here.
Well, I pulled out one that was a very strong proponent of the Second Amendment, and I'll continue to vote along those lines. Thank you.
Well, the question's not being generated random, but what was the purpose of the bowls if they're being
The
censored?
purpose of the bowls, ma'am, are to have questions that come from people from Dodge County,
Including myself.
and then when we go through all the questions from Dodge County, we'll get to the other questions.
I'm seeing that those questions are being pulled out and read and not being pulled out.
We've done this 10 times. We'll go through all the questions.
Full questions
And if we
being
get
pulled out.
through all the questions in Dodge County, then we'll
I'm
move to
from
the
Dodge
other.
County and
Yes,
pulled them
ma'am.
out, and
Okay.
4 of them have been pulled out and they've not been asked.
Well,
I pulled out one that was more of a personal attack,
And what was none?
and we're not going to read that.
What was the question on? Who was the name? Can the person rephrase the question, please?
It was from Lori Halverson.
That would be me. May I ask my question? I'll be civilized. I'm upset that you didn't give my voice a chance.
go ahead, ma'am. What's your
Thank you.
question?
So So my name is Lori Holgerson-Wente, and our family has been impacted by suicide and mental health. And in this community, we've had too many youth suicides from this school where my kids attended, graduating in 2009 and 2011. I'm not a leftist from the Twin Cities. I've lived here for 21 years. In Winona, you made the statement that you don't believe in suicide, and you said
I
as a
don't believe in
Christian
suicide.
that your quote was that you believe that your religious beliefs would believe that people who commit suicide
Yeah, let
kill
me,
themselves.
since you were in Winona, were you there that day?
I have seen the video.
Okay, that's fine. So let me go through it, because nobody ever came back to me and said, what did you mean by that? Or how
Yes,
did
that
that
was my
feel?
question. If you
So
didn't
here,
answer my
here's
question,
how
it
it went
says,
down in
what do you
Winona.
mean?
Where it went down in Winona is you had a group of people, Moms Demand Action, and they wanted to confiscate weapons because people were using weapons, firearms, to commit suicide. And I told them, and I said, look, I don't believe in that, but I understand how important the issue of suicide is. I don't want anybody to commit suicide. I think we want to work to try to prevent that from everyone, including veterans, for instance. My idea with veterans is that all of them, every last one, not just the ones that qualify for the VA, should be allowed to go find a mental health professional or somebody else to deal with their situation, and the government should pay for it. And so whatever, I never want them to call and the phone not be answered. I never not want them to think they can't go talk to somebody. Let's open it up and make sure we do every last thing in the world for people to have that option. What I did say is that when I was growing up in my church, and is that I was taught that it wasn't my life. I was taught that if I commit suicide, then I go to hell. That's what I was taught. Now, I never judged anybody, and I never said that applies to everybody else. I just said that's what I was taught. Now, of course, I'm not judge and jury, I'm not God. People have all sorts of different circumstances. But it's too bad that the people in the press and the people that write these letters to the editor, they never come back to me and say, what did you mean by that? I just meant that that's what I was taught.
Thank you, Congressman, because my question, which was denied, did ask that you explain yourself. That was all I said at the end. Please explain.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for explaining, because as a Christian,
Mhm.
and as somebody in my congregation and my community, I stand with those who have mental wellness concerns.
Sure.
And I ask that you, as our representative, represent all people, and those people with mental health who hear these things. This is something that you will have to stand
Well,
for.
I met, after that, I met with the people who handle the national mental health issues, and we had a great conversation. As I said, I'm a proponent for many of these things to let people get help, make sure that when they want help, they get it. I think the whole purpose is to try to limit or end suicide. It wouldn't, I don't know who's for it. I'm not. And so all I said in that thing was what I was taught. That was what I was taught. It had nothing to do with me projecting onto anyone else. But that's the way it's been written and reported and everything else.
I just think accountability is part of this town hall, and I want you to be accountable to what you said, that,
Are you satisfied that I'm accountable to what I said?
I believe what you said before is also the truth that you stand behind, and
So I
I'm
can't,
sad
so it
that-
really doesn't
I'm
matter what I
sad.
mean, okay.
Do you
All right,
not think they're gonna help?
Yeah, let's
Do you
go.
not believe that anymore?
Can we go to the next
What is that?
question?
Sir, you're not even from here, kind of hold back a little bit. You follow us around all the town halls. You follow us around all the town halls in Echo, so you're part of the indivisible fee handbook. Okay, enough of
That's
that.
why I follow you.
We
You're
need
a
to,
chicken.
we need to keep firing. If we can't keep order, we have ways of maintaining order. The next question is from Mark from Hayfield. Mark, I'm sorry, I can't read you. Smith, starts with an M.
Oh, anyway.
What progress are you making on legalizing cannabis?
Well, I won't be making much progress on that. I'm not for legalizing marijuana. Almost every law enforcement person that I've spoken to in this job across this district says that that's not a good idea. It's going to cause a lot more problems than it's going to solve. And I think if nothing else, let's face it, it's a state issue. The state of Minnesota can make that call if they want. They brought that up in the last session of legislature. I believe the governor's for it. We'll see what happens. But on a national scale, I don't support it.
I think it has to be done because my wife is in a lot of pain.
Well, sir, I think they have medical marijuana here in Minnesota, correct? Don't they have medical marijuana in Minnesota?
So that's what Team Hagedorn looks like when they know the question's coming. When a U.S. congressman's got his staff ready and prepared for that question, that's what it looks like. First, try to avoid it. Then blame the media because they never gave him the opportunity to clarify. And then, in what I think is one of the most really strange moves, what Jim Hagedorn does, he tries to blame his religion. It's not me who thinks that. That's what I was taught. But here's the thing, folks. Jim Hagedorn is a Missouri Synod Lutheran. That's the church that he claims to go to on his own webpage for the U.S. Congress. And the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church doesn't believe what Jim Hagedorn says his Lutheran church taught him. So either the folks at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Blue Earth, Minnesota are out teaching things that were really contrary to the Synod's beliefs, to Luther's beliefs, and to really the values that we have here in southern Minnesota. And I don't think that's true. I think it's Jim Hagedorn who's out of touch. I think it's Jim Hagedorn who's wrong for southern Minnesota. And I think it's Jim Hagedorn who first tries to blame everyone but himself for the positions and values that he holds.